Hey, everybody, welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast. This is Mark Cardone.
And Theron Feidt.
This is so fun today. We were, talking to some people and we came up with this topic, and we thought it would be confusing because we were talking about calling it self-reliance.
Right.
And I think when most people think of self-reliance, they think of going out and building a fort and, like you said, starting a fire with two sticks.
Fort.
A fort. Is that I don't know, pillow forts.
What are you, a child?
A child. Yeah. Yeah. Lots of stories about pillow forts. But in reality, what I'm finding is a lot of people that are achievers who are, sometimes missing the mark on their goals start to feel very lonely. Like they start to feel very alone, like the world's not really doing its part to help them. And it's a little bit of that victim mindset, that we all feel sometimes. Like there's always times when we sit here and we go, man, I'm all on my own here. But learning how to use that and use it as a source of empowerment, I think is great, because at the end of the day, it's just, Zoom's kind of cool because we're in this little box. And at the end of the day, that's really all you have, right?
Right.
Is you in your box. So,
yeah. Well, I early on when I read Stephen Covey's 7 Habits, in there he had a passage on, well, you don't want to be dependent on other people. Being dependent isn't fun. When you're a child, you're dependent on them. That's obvious. And oftentimes when you're older, I have an elderly father that's dependent on me. That's not fun, right? But in between, you don't want to be independent solely either. Even though we're talking about self-reliance and really just relying on yourself, we want to go towards interdependence. But in order to get to interdependence, you can't jump from being dependent to being interdependent, or certainly being self-reliant. You have to go through that phase of being independent and building yourself up, right? And that's what we're talking about here. That self-reliance, we're talking about your day-to-day actions, your day-to-day feelings, the things that you're happening. We're not talking about survival, but we're talking about daily survival, which the vast majority of people are going through.
Yeah. And I mean, if anything was brought to light, by the events of 2020 and 2021 and all of that, it's really that we have to be able to rely on ourselves, because when you're in your house by yourself, right, people learned a lot of things. I think people learned, there was a lot of depression, a lot of issues, and these are all things that, if you're going through these, like call somebody, get some help. Make sure you're working through that. They're real problems. But like you said, I think, a lot of people went from, being dependent, whether it was right from your parents, or whether it was, maybe in a relationship you were in where somebody, did a lot for you, or even a friend group that you're not part of anymore, that, you've moved on from. And now you're trying to regain that independence so that you can do it, but you're still kind of looking for those people to help. And maybe you're not finding them right away. So, I think, this is a really important topic right now.
It is important for anybody that has kids, and my kids are getting older. I have one that's off to college and one's coming up pretty quick. My goal with them now, especially as one's an adult, one's approaching adult, is to get them where they can do things on their own. They can make phone calls. They know how to put gas in their car. They know how to, put windshield washer fluid. I mean, the simple things that you wouldn't think are a big deal. Now I want them to be able to rely on me and call on me and make sure if they really need something, but I don't want them to call on me because their wash needs to be done, or they don't know how to do the dishes, or, simple things like that. Now, as simple as that sounds, I see a ton of parents and some of them are not doing their kids a service. They're actually doing them a disservice because they're not teaching them how to be self-reliant and on their own. One of the benefits of kids going off to college is their parents aren't around.
Right.
So they're forced to do stuff, and then and I know my daughter's dealt with this really, especially her first year, just some roommates that were horrible. Well, why was that roommate horrible? Probably because their parents were horrible, and their parents didn't do a good job to make, they were just messy, they were this or that, they weren't thinking of others, and I'm getting a little in the weeds of this, but I guess my point is, so often people get older, but they don't get wiser, they don't improve themselves. It's like that guy that went from his mom's house to a house with his wife, and he doesn't know how to do the dishes, he doesn't know how to cook, he doesn't know how to clean, he doesn't know how to do anything because his wife does it all, right? Yeah. Those losers, and if it's anybody on the podcast, good. I hope you take offense to that, because you need to step up and be able to do all those things. Not that other people can't do it. That's fine.
Right.
We should all have different roles in a household, but you should at least be able to do it.
Yeah. And this is, and this even goes that one step further where, we're looking at, achievers, and we're, like I said, those people probably aren't listening to our podcast.
No,
we're looking at achievers, and we're talking about, like 3 steps to help you take on the world independently. Right. And I think that's the key. And it's, one of my least favorite, and most people know this, but one of my least favorite terms, hashtags, social media things is hashtag self-made. I hate self-made because none of us who have achieved any level of anything, and nobody I've met who's achieved any level of anything, is self-made, right? Like it takes a village to build, whatever you've become. And if you're not seeing that, then you need to really kind of open your eyes and find what those things are. But at the end of the day, like we said, it is, us in the box, trying to make our way. So let's get into our steps. So number 1, and this is something I see for people who, have this issue, right? And it's the issue of picking out the things that people aren't doing for you.
Right.
And this is really common, and it's common in households, it's common in relationships. It's very common in the workplace, right? It's my boss isn't giving me leads. My manager doesn't do this. My spouse never does this. And this is a super dangerous thing, because what it leads to is nobody ever, at least the sentence, nobody ever helps me. I'm here all by myself, right? And in reality, I think people probably are doing more for you than you think. Right. But we're programmed, just because I think it's the easiest thing to do, it's the path of least resistance, to find and complain about the things people aren't doing.
You're right. It is super easy. I catch myself doing this at work. I catch myself doing this at home, and luckily I catch myself, and I don't go down too far the path. But I love what you brought up. It's your expectations versus your appreciation. So if you have an expectation of this needs to be done when I get home, or this needs to be done, there's nothing wrong. Let me back up a little bit. There's nothing wrong to have high expectations, because that's where excellence comes from. Right. If I want a good quality product of whatever it is, whether it's black belts or whatever, I have to have high expectations. That's fine. However, you need to make sure it's balanced, just like everything. And we had a podcast on yin and yang, the balance. You need to have appreciation to go along with that. Yeah. Because when people feel appreciated, they're going to do a lot more for you most of the time.
And that's really, I think that's 100% of the exercise, right? 100% of the exercise for step 1, is when you catch yourself, which I hope you catch yourself, and I catch myself, and I hope everybody does. But when you catch yourself doing that, like, that, I hate to say blaming, but that negative outlook on other people, trading that and saying, well, wait, what do I appreciate about this person? Like, I hear it a lot with salespeople. Well, people never call me back. Right. Well, it's not that, like, of course they don't, like, those people don't get paid to call you back. Like, that's what your job is as a salesperson. It's to keep calling until you connect. But what can you appreciate about those people, right? I appreciate they're busy. I appreciate they're in high position. And honestly, if you throw out some of those appreciations at them, you're probably more likely to get a call back. So trading that expectation for appreciation will go a long way. And I don't want people to look at this as manipulative. Like, we're not saying, my wife never does this, so I'm going to show her some appreciation, so maybe she'll do this. It's not that process. It's mentally, right, saying, hey, look, these people do a lot more for me than I think, or that I'm willing to notice right now. and let me start noticing it more. And as you notice it more, you'll
Right.
see it more, which will
Right.
feel like they're doing it more.
Right. Yep. Yep. The second part is, I love this phrase, and I don't know where it originally came from. I know we've used it in our martial arts dojo for a long time. And I just love the concept, because it's truly a mindset. And it's simply, if it's to be, it's up to me. And I love that it rhymes. It's easy to remember.
Yeah.
It just flows. And it's, it's such a great statement. But more than a statement, it's got to be your mindset, right?
Nobody's going to do it for you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like nobody's going to help you achieve greatness, or even like sustainability.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing it for yourself. Now, will people help you? Absolutely. Absolutely, people will help you. You know, if you ask for help, if you ask questions, people are out there, and I mean, I know, because people ask me questions all the time. I ask other people questions all the time.
Right.
And if you're acting on those and you're showing that you're genuinely interested, I mean, people will continue to help you. But at the same time, nobody's going to come to you and answer your questions that you haven't asked yet.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I remember when I was younger, I used to say the cavalry's not coming. Like, this is my
Right. Yeah.
this is my show. Like, if I'm gonna do it, I gotta do it. Nobody's gonna get on the treadmill and run for me.
Right.
Nobody's gonna make the phone calls for me, even though I could probably hire somebody to do it. But you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, a lot of the things that are holding us back are things we have to do. And and if we need help, we have to ask for the help. And if we don't ask for the help, it's not coming.
Well, I mean, you could think, well, people don't care. They're not asking me how I feel, or they're not asking me if I need any help, or they say, hey, let me know if you need any help. And then when I ask them, they don't do it. It's, you have to start. You have to be the one that like you said, that gets going. And I've had a lot of people ask me, through the years, to help them with various things, and it could be small things, could be little things. Let's say I'm teaching somebody something, and they want to learn this upper kata. So I start teaching them, and when they come back to me, and I have to reteach them what I already taught them, and I have to do that 2 or 3 times. Guess what? I'm done.
Yep.
I'm done. You're not serious about this. You like the idea of learning this, but you don't want to put in the time.
Right.
But then if I have somebody that comes back and they have down what I showed them with a little detail, then I can show them more. Now I know they're serious. And that concept is so important, because it's a mindset of, yeah, I can ask people for help and people can help me. But if you're not willing to help yourself, people can read into that.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm just wasting my time on you. You just want something easy. You want something handed to you,
right,
versus working for it.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think that's one of the things that, especially with social media, we're constantly bombarded with. There's an easier way. Like that seems to be the narrative. There's a quick way to lose weight. There's a quick way to start a business. There's a quick way to, and there just aren't. Like, realistically, there just aren't.
Right.
It's a process. It takes time to do anything worthwhile. Yep. And like we talked about on our last podcast, a lot of it's just trial and error and becoming a better person. And but I think it's interesting how easy a concept this is. I assume everybody I interact with is I'm making air quotes here, fine, unless otherwise told, right? Like, I just I say, how are you? They say, fine, great, then end of story, right? I don't really go out and offer help to people, because nobody wants unsolicited help.
Right.
You know what I mean? But if you ask the right questions to people and you take action, people will help you.
And when people ask how are you doing, that's just a common phrase, at least in America.
Yeah.
People don't really want to know how you're doing. They're just starting a conversation. So don't make the mistake of talking to a stranger saying, oh,
right,
man, my wife left me, my dog died, my kids are on drugs. Don't.
Unless you don't want that person to ask again.
Right. I mean, we all have people in our life that we purposely don't ask, how are you?
Right.
We'll say something else. Well, hey, good to see you. And then we walk away real quick, because those are the people that trap you in a corner and talk about how bad their life is, right?
Right.
Who wants that?
Right.
So don't be that person.
Absolutely. And then so step 3, as we go through these, this one's one of my favorites, you know, and I probably because I just finished reading a book about it, but celebrate your own victories.
Yeah.
I mean, because sometimes, believe it or not, there's not a parade for you every time you win like there was when you were a kid.
There isn't.
Right. When I was and I have the best mother in the world. When I was a kid coming up through karate, every time I got a belt, I had a party. Like she was amazing at celebrating my victories, right? And she still is today. I do something great, awesome.
Right.
But the majority of the world, is actually looking to point out your failures.
Right.
Because bringing you down helps them not feel left out. You do 10 math problems, 9 of them are right, 1 of them's wrong. Nobody points out the 9 that are right. They point out the one that's wrong, right?
Yeah.
Even in school. So, having the ability to kind of high five yourself, quoting Mel Robbins from the High Five Feidt.
There you go.
Read it, read it. It's great.
Yep.
But having that ability to high five yourself, pat yourself on the back. That's something we've done in karate for years, right? Pat yourself on the back. So important.
It is. I think you have to be your biggest cheerleader, basically. I mean, that's really what you need to be. And that doesn't mean, again, yin yang, you don't brag about yourself. You don't tell everybody how great you are. What you do is you celebrate internally. You celebrate privately. And that's okay if you do a post on Facebook and all of this. But honestly, like you said, most people don't care. And if they do care, they're jealous. So you gotta be happy for yourself, and you should be doing it for yourself, not to impress other people or to one up other people. I mean, if that's your motivation, it'll work, but it's going to be very short-lived and short-term.
And it's so funny because I remember we talked about this on a podcast. I don't remember which one.
Yeah, we did.
But we talked about the people that you tell your problems to, right? Like you and I have I have a very small group of people that if I'm having a problem, I won't vent it on Facebook. I'll go to my 2 or 3 people, you being one of them. Sure. And I'll say, hey, look, I have this issue, and bounce through it with me. And honestly, with my victories, I do the same thing. I have a small group of people that, my wife being one, my mother being one, a couple of my, you being one. But I'll go through that group and just kind of say, hey, I'm proud of myself today. I did this thing. And they'll be there to kind of, corral along in the parade, but I don't really put it out publicly because, like you said, people are out there to look and say, oh, well, it's not that big a deal. And you're like, okay, thanks.
And those people care, right? Those
Absolutely.
people in your life care. However, if you don't have or feel like you have anybody like that in your life, the obvious answer is go find them. But the step before that is, what kind of person are you?
Yeah.
Right. If you want a great relationship, whether it's a long-term relationship that you're searching for, or it's just a friend relationship, it's what type of person are you? Because you're not going to attract the person that you want if you're not that person.
Yeah.
Right. If you're a nasty, self-centered person, guess what you're going to have all around you?
Yeah.
The same type of people. So really take a look at your friends, and if all of them you don't really trust or whatever, then you got to look in the mirror because it's probably you. Right?
Absolutely.
Sorry.
talk about self-reliance, right?
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. Being the type of person that you want to attract is so important. And I think with this, if you want people around to celebrate your victories, you better be out there celebrating other people's victories. Right. That's part of it. But at the end of the day, I think being able to just truly be excited for yourself, and taking and actually making the time to celebrate your victories, because a lot of us don't. A lot of us do things, and maybe it's just a little thing, and we go, well, that's not worth telling anybody. That's not worth celebrating.
Right.
For you, it might be. It might be worth just taking that couple minutes and saying, dude, I did a great job.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I love this topic. I think it's so important for adults to develop or to enhance And certainly for our kids, as they're getting into the teenage years and growing into adulthood, that we're teaching them about this concept, because we should be building a better society, and we build it from the ground up, right? We don't build it from the top down. We build it from the ground up, meaning through our kids, through our teaching. This podcast is talking about it. I have strong opinions on certain things. You have strong opinions on certain things, and I'm okay that they come through. You know, like I said, if you're having issues with, well, it's you. Look in the mirror. You're the one that's failing. You're the one that's messing up. Do something about it.
Yeah.
Don't whine and complain. And I'm a victim, and it's because of this, because of that garbage.
It's because
there are so many people out. What's that?
It's because people don't help me.
Right.
It's because people don't care. It's because people don't care.
Yeah. I mean, you can't say that stuff because there's so many people out there that are successful in spite of all the things that happen. Okay. And if you look at somebody that's successful, what you don't see is all the garbage they had to go through to get there. You don't know their background. You don't know what they had to do personally and where they really came from. Because oftentimes the very successful people, they had a rough for many years. You see a very successful business, you're like, oh wow, look at all the money you're making. Well, what you didn't see is the 20 years before that they were sleeping in their car or had a 1-bedroom apartment, or all those other things. You forget that. So step up.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great step up. Do it. Stop blaming other people, because it's like you said, if it's to be, it's up to me. So let's go through our steps real quick. So number one,
yes, sir.
Number one, as we review, trade expectation for appreciation. So as you're looking around and you're noticing all the things people aren't doing for you, mentally trade that and appreciate who people are for you and what they are doing.
Number two, that phrase, if it's to be, it's up to me. Make sure that you're the one that's starting to change. You're the one that's taking the action. You're the one that's getting the ball rolling. You're not waiting for things to happen for you.
Yep. And then number three, celebrate your victories. Don't wait for the parade, because it's probably not coming anymore. Make your own parade. High five yourself. Thanks, Mel Robbins, for that nugget, which I love. But celebrate your victories and then set your next goals to move on. And that wraps up this episode of the Achieve Results Now podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will catch you on the next one.
Thank you.